But first
Parking
year,
garage.
we went over there, and we're coming in on the bus. It was, I think, a day game, 3, something like that. And they were shooting birds at us. They were giving us the finger. 3 years later, they quit doing that. For some reason.
They didn't care anymore,
Yeah, it's not very nice. Yeah, they quit doing that.
Oh, that's great. That's great stuff. Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Coach Spurrier will be in today. Always love having him in. Robbie Andrew will be on our Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line to play Yes, No Way, or Maybe. Don't forget, Thursday, Paul Feinbaum is going to join us. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll play Yes, No Way, or Maybe with him as well. And so we got a lot going on. We'll continue to try to bring in the best guests, and we appreciate all of our great sponsors, man. We have been overloaded. In fact, we got a new one that may be coming up Tuesday. We'll find out tomorrow whether a new one's coming on. All right, let's go right into everything. We got a lot to talk about. Into our Gainesville Quarterback Club, starting 5. And I was misinformed, and it's my mistake. I looked at an old thing, and anyway, the speaker tomorrow night is Andy Staples, who will be great. He's been on this show many times. Love it when he talks. I always feel like I've learned more about college football every time he talks. So it's Andy Staples tomorrow night at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. And I will promise I'm going to get the right sheet this time, and I'm not going to mess any more of them up. But that'll be a lot of fun tomorrow night. I look forward to it on Tuesday night. And you can become a member just by going to GainesvilleQuarterbackClub.org or just calling anybody. Call me. I'll help you out. I'll get you hooked up. A lot of my friends have actually become members, so it's kind of cool. All right, let's get to, and a lot of people just have become friends because they're members because we see each other all the time. All right, let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. Number 1, all right, now it begins. This is the start of it. This is the start of the 4-game run that everybody's been talking about since the geniuses on ESPN realized how tough Florida's schedule was, 3 months after it came out, but they just then realized it. This is the beginning. This is day 1. Day 1 of the first really tough week of 4 really tough weeks. Now, have those weeks diminished in how tough they are? A little bit, slightly. I don't think Ole Miss is quite the team we thought they were. Texas obviously has some weaknesses, but you're still going out there to play them. And Georgia, for a while, looked like they may be struggling a little bit, but after last week, I don't think that anybody's thinking that previous week. But look, this is it. You're going to this game, you're a 17-point underdog. It was a 21-point underdog at one point when it first opened, but money came in on Florida because it seemed like a ridiculous amount. And I agree. If I was a betting man, I would have jumped all over that. And I still think Florida will cover 17. But look, we'll see. We need to see progress again. This is another example of where Florida's football team needs to show progress. I'm not going to sit here and say, the Gators don't need to win. They can get a moral victory. No, of course not. You want to win this game. You better try to win this game with everything that's in your heart. This is an important game, not only because it's Florida, Georgia, not only because of the history of it, not only because of, what that means in the SEC race, which it does, news alert, but because you need to beat a big team. I'm going to get to my famous stat. I don't know if it's famous, but it's a stat. I've made it famous because I think it's famous. But you got to go beat somebody. You've got to go win games. Look, I long for the old days, man. I loved, and I'll talk to Coach Spurrier about them, when they won, when he got in here and Florida Georgia was, it was just like going to the freaking dentist for 4 hours every year because you were just in pain and you were miserable and they were telling you to spit. And that's what it was, Florida, Georgia. And then Spurrier came. Guess what happened? Won 10 out of 11. And the only one they lost was because they couldn't figure out the quarterback situation. And Georgia was really good that year. That Jim Donnan team was good. They had, I think they had 2 Hall of Famers on that team, guys that went on to be Hall of Famers. I know Hines Ward was one. Anyway, I long for those days, but those days aren't coming back. Maybe they will, but they're not coming back soon. It is what it is. it is what it is, and it's just a question of can Florida go and play disciplined, solid, smart football and make this a competitive game. I want to see that. What I don't want to see is revert to form, which is unfortunately what we've seen. I'm hoping that they're going to do it. I'm hoping that they're going to do something special in this game. We'll talk more about it on Thursday. By the way, SEC Nation will be there. No big surprise there. And that's one reason we asked Feinbaum to be on Thursday's show, because we know where you're going. Because I actually went and looked at the schedule, and I went, they're not going there, not going there, not going there. They're definitely coming there. And you know what? Nobody else is going to come here. Although the games this weekend are not good, but we'll talk about that later. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club. Starting 5, and that is that I want to give you my stat again. I'm going to give it to you as long as it's relevant. I think it's even more relevant now. The teams Florida's lost to are now 21-2 on the year. Now, that says something about Florida's lost to 3 teams that are 21-2. That's all you need to know. The teams they've beaten are 10-21. So in other words, they're not very good. We all know that. The teams they're getting ready to play the next 4 weeks are 25-6. They're going to play on defense the numbers 1, 3, 11, 14, 19, and 21 teams before this season's over, according to the rankings right now. Look, these guys are going up against really good teams, even when they're playing bad teams. Kentucky, watch Kentucky Saturday. They're I don't know why they can't figure things out. They don't have a quarterback. That's part of their problem. They're not very good, but they had some good players, and they have guys. And Florida beat them up to the point where they couldn't even put a running back on the field. They had a bunch of defensive guys out. The point is, Kentucky's not a bad team. I'm not going to go with that. Mississippi State is bad. They're bad. They're the worst team in the league. They keep fighting with teams, but then they in the end they're just not good enough. They can't stop anybody. UCF's bad. Yeah, they've beaten bad teams, but they don't play any more bad teams till the end of the year. And who knows at that point what FSU is going to be. So that is what it is. But look, it's not supposed to be easy. We've seen other teams in this league. We've seen the 2 new teams that came in go, oh, crap. This is the SEC? So we get a big win and we can't come back the next week and go, we can calm down, we can relax. Or we lose a tough game, we can't go, we're just going to a crummy team. No, you end up having to go play Vanderbilt, which has come out of nowhere, and you win the game by 3, and you're happy to get out with a win. SEC's tough, man. It is tough. And it's not supposed to be easy. It's not easy for anybody, as Missouri has found out. Even when it was supposed to be easy for them, they're pretty much done. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. The A&M win over LSU certainly was the game. That was a must-watch game. I'll be honest with you, it was kind of a weird. I talked about how it was a soft weekend, and it really kind of turned out to be that way, where you never had that game that just stunned the world. The A&M comeback and the way they played in the second half was amazing. FSU loses, goes to 1-7. I've never seen anything quite like it. I know that a lot of people can say, "Whoa, what about Florida?" Florida was playing in a New Year's Six bowl. The next year, fired its coach and went 4-8. And I'm like, yeah, that was really bad. It ain't this bad, and they can still go 4-8. And I can tell you who they play the rest of the way. They've got North Carolina this week. They got at Notre Dame. They've got Charleston Southern, I think it is, and then Florida at the end of the year. So I could see them winning 3 of those games. I really could, but I probably won't. So anyway, it's just amazing how that drop-off that has been in Florida State. And then, I watched a lot of other games. There was a lot of heat. There was heat before the A&M LSU game. Guys were throwing punches. That was very reminiscent of any game that LSU's ever played, I think. But and then the Michigan State game, there was fighting at the end. So things are starting to heat up, and we're at the point now where we can kind of start seriously thinking about the playoffs. Look, I know we all have thought about the playoffs all year. But now we can seriously start thinking about who may get in, who's disqualified now. I'll take FSU and Florida out of the mix. Hey, actually, I won't take Florida out of the mix. Florida runs the table. They probably get in. Think about that. You beat Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and then beat FSU. Now, you're probably not playing in the SEC championship game. You probably don't want to, actually, at that point. 9-3 on a roll. Why not? Maybe Florida gets in. So I'm not even going to eliminate them. FSU, though, you're out. All right, let's get to number 4 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. And that is the one thing I noticed, too, about watching a lot of football this weekend is every 5 to 10 minutes, somebody talked about a play that was made by somebody that I recognize his name because he was a former Florida football player. Look, I'm not going to get into why these guys are all gone and why there are so many players around the league that are playing very good around different leagues. You look at, I was just going through a couple off the top of my head because I watched some of the plays they made. Donovan McMillan made a great play in their game. Caleb Douglas had a touchdown. Jaden Hill has been very good. Scooby Williams, they're talking him up all the time. ETN, of course. And it's sad that they couldn't keep these guys, whether it was their failure to be good in NIL, which they have not been good in NIL, and they still aren't good in NIL. They're not the level the University of Florida should be at. I'm just going to say that. Or whether it's guys not wanting to be around a team that had a losing record, which ETN allegedly did, but we all know he got a ton of money more than Florida was able to give him. Whatever the reason, but you look at one reason that Florida is not where maybe they need to be, and that would be looking at all these Division I players that are starting on major college football teams. Or it could be they didn't want to buy in and you're with the guys you want to be with. I could never get, in fact, Coach Napier was asked about ETN today. And he said, "Look, no." He just kind of did. He gave a non-denial. I watched all the President's Men the other day, and I actually tagged this thing all the Gators men. So you watch that movie and it stays with you for a while. Anyway, it is what it is, but like Napier said today, it ain't gonna be the last time. And it's not the first time, and it ain't gonna be the last time that we have to go play against a guy that played for us. And that's the world we live in today. Maybe we'll see it get tampered down, but I don't think it will. I'm going to try not to use a cliche because everybody always uses this Pandora's box and cat's out of the bag. I think that is a rule that will not be changed. How about that? That's not a cliche. I think that rule is ironclad. No. Anyway, all right. Let us get to number 5 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that is we saw, and we'll talk to Coach about this, but we saw Duke do what we wanted Florida to do, or I wanted Florida to do. A lot of people didn't want Florida to do. They did it. Now you're going to blame them for not getting it. But Duke went for 2, and they could have won the game there in overtime. Their kicker had already had a kick blocked, had a kick extra point missed, a field goal missed too. Had a kick blocked at the end of regulation. That was an unbelievable play that the guy made, just hopping, made himself skinny somehow, hopped through the line and then went up and blocked it. That was a great play. Did not make our play of the Campus USA play of the weekend, though. We got a really good one. I think you know what it is. But anyway, it was a weird weekend watching football because that game I was really into. I was really watching the UCF game too with a lot of interest. I was just curious where that's going, and this KJ Jefferson thing, which I know most of you haven't paid any attention to. It's weird because after the Florida game, I don't know that he's gotten in. He may have gotten in for a play here and there, but he's basically been benched. And they have played 3 other quarterbacks. In fact, in this game, they played 2 others. He warmed up and didn't even play. That was money not well spent, I can tell you, because I know they didn't get KJ Jefferson for books. They got him for a lot of money, but that is a weird dynamic. But college football sometimes can be weird. All right, that's going to do it for our Gainesville Quarterback Club. Starting 5, don't forget Andy Staples is speaking Tuesday night. You want to come by, have a beer, have some dinner, listen to Andy, listen to me. I got things to say. I'll probably throw some of these same stats out at him, but we'll do all that Tuesday night. Okay, we have got to get out of here. When we come back, Coach Spurrier is going to join us. Don't forget Robbie Andrew, too, in this next segment. We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, and welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Meldon Law, also the sponsor of Coach Spurrier's appearances here on Meldon Mondays. We always love them. And I know, Coach, you had a great weekend.
Sure did.
You had another go for two you had to deal with up there at Duke, but you had a great weekend in terms of them honoring the '89 team.
Yeah, we did. Every 5 years, we've honored the Duke 1989 ACC championship team. Only one in 62 years, so pretty special. And gosh, we had about 30 players, I guess, come back. Maybe about 15 starters and 15 substitute guys, but we had a nice weekend. We did our usual little thing, and they introduced us between first time out in the first quarter. So we were able to go out there and wave at the crowd. Had a decent crowd for Duke.
Yeah, they had a good crowd.
SMU is a really good team
they
also.
Are good. Yeah.
I tell you, we had a game a little bit like the Gators had at Tennessee. Missed 3 short field goals, Duke did. And they
one blocked at the buzzer, that would have won the game.
SMU committed 6 turnovers. They didn't have a very good game. Goes into turnover. They got it first, score, kick extra point. We get it, score. Went for 2 and did not make it. So those going for 2s, there's no exact right or wrong.
No.
Percentages, you're going to make the kick. So
I did get it, too, in this case, because he'd already had 1 blocked, missed 2.
That might have been the reason.
Yeah, and so there's no guarantee, there's no automatic that he's going to make the extra point. He'd already missed 1, so I could get it. And then, hey, go for the win. I had no problem with that call. But, man, that's what you see. When it doesn't work, guess what? That was a terrible call. When it does work, it was a great call. But that's part of being a coach, right?
Yeah, if you feel like you've got a 2-point play that's got 60, 75% chance of working, go with it. But, something different. But if it's just rolled out, hit the guy in the flat, they're going to cover that most of the time nowadays.
I was trying to think of how many times you didn't go for 2 a whole lot, mainly because you didn't have a lot of close games. So obviously,
we didn't.
The one was against Tennessee, and then I can't think of another one. We had to go.
Well, we missed every time we lost, we missed a field goal.
That's right.
So that's what caused it, and the other team maybe made one most of the time. But I won my last 2 and lost my first 4. How about that?
There you go.
But and sometimes stuff happens.
Yeah.
So we're in the field goal against Tennessee when I'm at South Carolina, and they had the ball first, so they're trying about a 45-yard field goal, 42 or something like that, and the guy missed it. But they said Tennessee lineman flinched before the snap. So they move it back 5, and then he makes it. and then we sort of missed an open guy on a corner route. Mm-hmm. So now we got Ryan Suckup, who kicked for the Kansas City and the Bucks for 15, 18 years. He missed a 30-yard field goal, and you get beat. So sometimes that happens.
Ryan Suckup is a legend in Florida history because that's whose kick got blocked in that famous game in 06.
Yeah, he had that one blocked also.
Yeah. But he was a great kicker.
No, he's a good kicker.
Yeah,
he's a good one.
Had a great career too. The games this weekend, there were good games, but there weren't a lot of upsets. The games all kind of ended up like we thought. Like, for example, Texas beating Vanderbilt is what we thought. We didn't think Vanderbilt would be in the game at the end of the game with an onside kick with a chance to win. Still win.
Yeah, they had a chance to win.
Yeah.
Vandy they play better defense than you think sometimes also, and. Vandy, tough though. They hung in there with them fairly well. They didn't have quite the offensive performance they had against Alabama, but it was a close game, good game.
Pavi is a good quarterback though. He's really fun to watch. And then of course, Florida State now 1-7. It's the damnedest thing. I've never seen anything like this where a team goes 13-0, 13-1, but. I
read in the paper, it's the first time in 70 years.
70 years.
A team went undefeated one season, and then they're 1-7 the next season. So, they've got their issues up there right now.
Yep, and of course, so no big changes really in college football, but obviously there will be a lot of big games this weekend, including the Florida-Georgia game, which is a game you used to own, Steve. They should name the stadium after you. You played up there.
Yeah, we had a lot better teams than they did. In the 12 years I was here, they never won a division.
No.
We won 7, and Tennessee won the other 3, and they started 2. The third year I was here. So, it was us in Tennessee back in those days. And Georgia, they didn't start really winning till who came there? Mark Richt. Mark
Richt.
Got him to some games and so forth.
The funny thing is, in '95, they sent me up there to do stories on Georgia. And Robbie was going to handle Florida. So we used to do that a lot. And so I'm sitting there, and I got an appointment with Ray Goff. And I'm sitting there, and he comes in, he puts his feet up on it, he's got a toothpick in his mouth. And I noticed there is a 1994 SEC East champion thing on his, a trophy. And I'm like, what did you get that made up? He goes, no, if you tie, you technically get a trophy. So I learned something that day. So everybody who ties gets a trophy, participation trophy, I guess, kind of. But that's about as close as he ever came to winning the division or playing for a title.
We both had 6-2 records, but we beat them head up. So obviously we went to the championship game in '92. That was
How much do you think the passion of losing to Georgia and '66 burned into your time as a coach at Florida and winning that and being so successful in that game?
Oh, I don't know, maybe a little bit, but our goals were to try to win the SEC every year because we had teams capable of doing it.
Right.
And we didn't win them every year. We won 7 of 12 and lost 2 championship games. And the other 3 years, Tennessee beat us for the division. So we tried to win them every year.
Yep.
And we got 7 of 12. But so that was the big goal. And obviously Georgia's in the Eastern Division, and they owned us for a while. Because we mentally thought they were supposed to own us. And then finally, once our team and players said, hey, we're better than those guys, and there's no reason why we should lose to them, so let's go beat them. Simple as that, the first 2 or 3 years. And then after that, talent, I still think we had a little bit better talent than they did most of the time. But mentally,
They got better on talent, but you still
we mentally
you still had
thought
more, yeah.
we were supposed to beat those guys, and hopefully they thought we were supposed to beat them also. Hopefully, I don't know.
What was that first game like, Florida Georgia game? Because for you, I mean, you'd played in the game, so you knew what it was like and what it meant. But for you, I mean, you know, the ghosts of Vince Dooley were still haunting that game.
Well, they'd won 15 of the last 20,
Right.
and in the history of the series, they were way ahead. I don't know the exact on that. But we were a lot better than them that year. And I remember the press conference on, Monday or Tuesday, whenever we had with all the media. One of the writers said, "Are you getting nervous now about playing Georgia in Jacksonville?" I mean, it used to be you can't beat them in Jacksonville. And I said, "No, we're not nervous." I said, I was reading the paper the other day, and I saw where we are number 1 in the conference in offense and number 2 in defense. And Georgia is number 10 in offense and number 9 in defense. We're 1 and 2. They're 9 and 10. And I'm supposed to be nervous. I would think they should be nervous, wouldn't you? And the guy said, "Well, I guess so." So we just put aside all that, can't win in Jacksonville, blah, blah, blah. And once we started beating them, and beating them pretty good. See, that to me, that's the advantage of beating a team by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And not 1 point, 2 point, but as much as you can. I think Sun Tzu said there's only one thing better than a victory, and that's a big victory. So we tried to do that when we could.
And I think Gator fans enjoyed that. I mean, they weren't used to just beating them, let alone beating them badly.
Yeah.
And did for a while. I mean, there was that one really close game, the rain game. You know, was a tight game. But other than that,
yeah. Well, our fans were used to leaving about the middle of the fourth quarter, and now we had those guys leaving.
Yeah.
So our fans got a kick out of that, I think.
You know that in 2 years after you graduated, my dad made me sit through a night in the game in '68 that Florida lost 51-0.
That one.
And Ray Graves switched his offensive and defensive coordinator for the game.
Something different, yeah.
And it gave everybody the easy lead. That's what it looked like, you know. But, yeah, it was crazy. Also, we had a lot of great NFL games this week, and I enjoyed watching a lot of games. And that included our Campus USA Play of the Weekend, Coach. And I know you were watching this game, and I know you enjoyed this. And what stands out here about this pass rush?
Well, they do like most people do, except the Detroit Lions. I watched them last week, and they only rushed 3, and so they're all back here in a wide. Now, see this guy back up a little bit? So it was planned. Whoever put it in for the Commanders, and that's the perfect way to run it. Get everybody in a wide there and try to keep it tipped up in the air.
Yeah.
And the guy at the back sort of backed up and perfect tip right to him. So, but there's one way to prevent the Hail Mary pass from being completed. Don't let him throw it.
Yes,
Rush
exactly.
5 or 6 or 7. Even if they hit a 20-yard pass, you can converge on the guy. But when that ball goes up in the air, I'm watching it live. You were too, weren't you?
Yeah.
I said, all right, now, right there, all right, it's going to the end zone. He wound up. I said, they got a chance. Boop, boop.
I just started screaming.
Yeah.
Because Dan Quinn's a good friend. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
And
He's a good coach.
Of course, former Florida coach here, defensive coordinator, one of the best that ever coached here.
Yeah.
And we've kept in touch since he left here, and he's helped our golf tournament out. So I was rooting for him. That was amazing, though, to see that happen because I don't know. I mean,
my wife is so used to pulling against the Redskins.
Yeah.
She said, "Are you pulling for the Commanders?" Or she calls them Redskins. I said, "They are the Commanders. They're completely different than when they were the Redskins.
They are completely different.
New owners, new attitudes. Fans love the team now. Oh, it's fun to watch. It really is."
Steve,
so
I'll tell you,
I'm a Commander fan.
I am right there with you. I have been rooting against them ever since you left.
Yeah, but now
now this year, especially because of Dan Quinn and because of, you mentioned Jaden Daniels earlier. Love watching that guy play. Loved him watching him play in college, except against Florida, of course, because he was really good against Florida. All right, before we let you go, Coach, I wanted to ask you about what your feeling is about this game, this Florida-Georgia game coming up. World's largest outdoor cocktail party. It is a party. We know that. No matter what anybody wants to say, it's a party. But the way Florida's played recently, we think maybe, hey, puncher's chance.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, hopefully our team we'll go over there with some confidence now that we played very well the last game. And we should have beat Tennessee, but we didn't.
Yep.
We didn't make the plays. But when you're inside the 20 4 times to get 3 points, you're not going to win much of any against anybody. But anyway, we just need to go over and play how we're capable and score touchdowns instead of kicking field goals from the 1 or 2 yard line. If we can do that, we certainly got a chance to win the game. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. And talent-wise, I think we're fairly close. They just barely beat Kentucky. Georgia did. Mm-hmm. And Kentucky, they can't beat anybody now. They're struggling.
God, they look bad Saturday.
Yeah, but it's coming down to who plays the best, who scores touchdowns instead of kicking field goals, not turning the ball over, especially in crucial situations. So, sometimes we worry about the talent more than we worry about who plays the smartest and the best.
Smartest, and I think the most disciplined. Yeah,
most
I mean,
disciplined,
the smartness is part of the discipline, and I think that goes back to execution. I mean, discipline is part of the execution, and I think, Coach Napier has been stressing that, and we need to be better. We weren't good enough at it, and I think they've gotten better at it, but they've got to continue to be better at it. They've got to continue to go forward in the right way as far as doing the right thing. I mean, if a play is designed to do something, make it happen.
And even that game yesterday, Washington, if they had lost the game, is because they had to kick all field goals.
Yeah, exactly.
They had 15 points, 5 field goals.
Never was that, whatever.
So they didn't play their best, but the Hail Mary bailed them out. Yeah.
All right, Coach, you got anything else for us?
No, just looking towards the ball game, 3:30. Do we still call it largest outdoor cocktail party?
I will call it that until the day I die.
I guess that's the name that's stuck with it. Nobody else uses that, so.
Well, you knew Bill Costells, right?
Costello, yeah.
He's the guy who came up with that name.
Did he do that?
Yeah, he was the guy who came up with that name.
It used to be now.
Yeah.
And, of course, sometimes we played them. We actually played at night.
Yeah.
And they said people are drinking too much.
Too much, they had to stop
Can't
that.
turn them loose at 10:30 at night.
Well, I think somebody actually died.
Yeah.
They fell off a balcony or something, or a
But first
parking
year,
garage.
we went over there, and we're coming in on the bus. It was, I think, a day game, 3, something like that. And they were shooting birds at us. They were giving us the finger. 3 years later, they quit doing it.
They didn't care anymore, yeah.
It's not very nice. Yeah, they quit doing that.
Oh, that's great. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, we'll let you go. And always great stuff from Coach Spurrier. You know that. We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's always a great pleasure to go to our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line and bring Robbie Andrew in to talk about football and other sports, and also to play our game, yes, no, where, maybe, which is, in fact, let me get these on the right way. I have trouble with the ones at Robbie will tell you, I have trouble with the ones at the radio show, too. So I think it's a me problem.
Yes, you did. It's called operator error, Dooley.
Well, obviously it wasn't a lot going on this weekend. We enjoyed watching football, but all the games, pretty much the winners won that we thought were going to win.
Yeah, there wasn't any big shocking upset. I thought Vanderbilt played Texas pretty tough, kept it close. But one of the amazing half of football to me was Texas A&M's second half against LSU. They outscored them 31-7 with that true red shirt freshman quarterback that lit Florida up. He was incredible.
You know, it kind of ticked me off how Kirk Herbstreit kept saying, well, the SEC is going to take note of this. Oh, this is guys came out of nowhere, you know, this quarterback. I'm like, I looked it up, 261 all-purpose yards against Florida. I don't know if you remember that game or not.
Yeah.
Kirk.
But Pat, I remember before that, the Florida game with LSU, with Texas A&M, Herbstreit said on the air that if they did have to go with the freshman quarterback, he'd be more trouble for the Gators than if the starter was there. So he knew, he'd seen enough of this guy to know what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, well, I just think it's almost like he forgot that Florida game. But, you know, there were a lot of games being played, but obviously one game we had to pay attention to a little bit was to see Miami go to over Florida State. And I will say this, I elevated Miami in my top 12 that I do every week. The Steve and Christine Wendig top 12, I should say. And but I elevated them because, look, FSU's played everybody close. They played Miami. They couldn't play them close, and that shows you how good Miami is right now.
Yeah. Miami's not great on defense right now, Pat, but, you know, with Cam Ward, they're going to score a bunch of points and go down the field. But the thing is about Miami, they're going to play a 12-game schedule and not play a ranked team.
Right.
Which is kind of incredible when you look at what some of these teams like Florida and the SEC are having to take on. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. They'll play. Will they play a ranked team in the? I guess Clemson if they play Clemson
probably in the championship game.
In the championship game.
So.
Yeah, but you're right. They some teams got lucky in the scheduling and some teams didn't, and sometimes you just have to deal with that. But certainly Florida State didn't have a tough schedule necessarily, but they're sitting there at 1-7, and they were. What was the name of their quarterback? Cronin Hike. Lace lady.
Don't ask me to pronounce that one.
Who the heck was that guy that came in the game?
What was Miami doing on the 4th and 1 where they had him nailed for loss and he runs for 40 yards?
I know. That was weird. That was a weird
bizarre.
play. It was a weird things happened down there. All right. It is time for us to play Yes, Nowhere, Maybe with Robbie Andrew. It is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Street dining done the right way. If you go in there and say, hey, I want a cheesesteak and I listen to another Dooley Noted podcast, you get free fries with the order, which I did the other day and got free fries with my order. So let's go to number one. Number one, Robbie, on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe, the window. And the reason I'm asking this question is I saw this headline on CBSSports.com. But the headline was, the window has closed on Missouri football.
So do you want me to comment on whether that's
I want you to
true
say yes, no way, or maybe. Is that true?
I'm going to say maybe. I mean, it's close to being closed on them. I mean, they've lost, 2 games now?
Yeah, and they don't
Brady
really
Cook,
have.
Who knows about Brady Cook? If he misses another game, they could lose another game. So, yeah, and to me, they just weren't even competitive at all without him in the game. And
no, and they
were
weren't
way level below Alabama in terms of overall talent. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. They weren't competitive against Auburn either until he came back in the game. I don't know. I think they've got real problems there, and I think that maybe playing some of that soft schedule is backfiring.
Pat, look at it this way, Pat. Take Cam out of the Miami offense. How good would they be?
Yeah,
I don't think they'd be as good as they are now.
No,
Cam
no question
Ward.
about it. Yep. Probably. I would say he's my leader right now from my Heisman.
I would say, he would be mine too, Pat. I think.
I don't know. It doesn't mean that it can't change drastically, but late October is when you should start kind of formulating in your mind. That's my rule of thumb. Who's going to win
the thing with him, Pat, to me, the key is that there were games they should have lost, but he didn't let it happen. He elevated them in the fourth quarter. and won
He
the game.
really is, yeah. He's kind of a winner type guy, yeah, mentality. All right,
Yeah.
let's go to number 2 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Robbie Andrew. Robbie, Florida covers the 17 points against Georgia this weekend.
That's a pretty big spread, Pat, and I'm going to say maybe, but because look at Florida's played Georgia tough early in the last 2 games, but then it's kind of gotten away from them in the second half, and that could happen again. They could play them close in the first half, then a couple of turnovers, and you get it. You lose by 20 points again. But I think Florida has a chance to hang in there and cover that spread. So I'm going to say a maybe on that. But I'm a little surprised the spread's that much, to be honest with you.
Well, it was 21, and it actually
Yeah.
came down. Florida money came in on it because Florida's played better lately, I think, more than anything. But, look, Georgia's really good. And here's the thing I would tell the defensive coordinator at Florida. You're going to see plays you have never seen before. They're going to run crossing routes that you haven't seen. Be ready for that, because every year it seems like somebody from Georgia, some wide receiver, is running across the field wide open.
Wide open, yeah, you're right.
And ends up getting a touchdown. So that would be my advice to them. Like they're going to listen.
Another thing, Pat, too, Georgia's defense is really good. They're going to throw all kinds of stuff at Lagway to put pressure on and get him out of his rhythm. So,
well, and again, I will say this. I said that part of the problem for Lagway was going to be that he was going to have to face some great defensive fronts, starting with Kentucky. Not a problem. So, maybe they're getting good enough that they can handle it, but we all know there's a reason why Georgia's a 17-point favorite, too.
Yeah. And the thing about Kentucky, too, Pat, they didn't really have to roll him out of the pocket, which I'm sure will be doing that this week to get away from that Georgia rush.
Yeah, I would think so. Let's get to number 3 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Robbie Andrew. You have a new SEC championship game prediction, and it is Texas A&M against Georgia.
Yeah, I'm saying yes, Pat. Right now, that's the way it's looking. I mean, A&M looks really, really good. And, ever since the Alabama game, since the second half, Georgia's been, probably the best team in the country maybe. But so to me, those two are the 2 best teams right now. And it would be a kind of a great matchup in the title game. It's
kind of funny how I rooted against A&M in almost every game they've ever played, especially with Jimbo Fisher. And other than the Florida game, I think I've kind of rooted for them all year. I like that team. I like the way they play. I like the toughness. I like Mike Elko. I think it'll be fun to watch them the rest of the way. Yeah, Elko's done a great job, Pat. And you're right. They are a very tough, physical football team, and they've got some really skilled guys on that quarterback. Gives them a dimension on offense. They're going to be hard to stop. Yep. Again, I go back to my stat I talked about earlier. The teams that have beaten Florida are now 21-2. Maybe they were just better than we thought they were. But, there are 3 losses to teams in the top 10 right now. So yeah, in the one game they should have won. So exactly, this is where they're at. All right, Robbie, great having you. We'll see you later, buddy. Okay, Pat. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Okay, well, we appreciate, as always, Robbie coming on to play Big Mill's Cheesesteak, Yes, No, Where, Maybe. And we appreciate Big Mill's Cheesesteak very much. Great cheesesteaks, man. I had one last Wednesday. It was so good. And fries were free, as I said. All right, let's move along to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And, of course, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. Hesser and Kipke. Where were they the other day? They were over at the amphitheater and they were seeing, I'm now blanking on who it was. They saw somebody good, somebody that I'd seen. You get old and the brain just quits working. It just slows down. And anyway, let's get to 3 things. Hopefully I won't forget any of those. Let's start off with, last week I talked a little bit about how in the summer it's talking season. Well, you know what time of year this is? Firing season. We talked about it last week. A bunch of guys are getting demoted or fired. Well, it keeps going, and we had a head coach fired, Mike Bloomgren, I think it's pronounced, from Rice. Now that's not a big time job, but he had been not very good. 2-6 this year, not a good year. And he's been there for a while. I think he's been there like 10 or 11 years. So anyway, they fired him, and then UCF fired their defensive coordinator, Ted Roof, who's been everywhere. I remember he was at Georgia Tech. He was at Duke. I think he was at Auburn or somewhere. Anyway, he's been all around. They fired him. They're 107th in defense. So, look, this is a time of year where there's going to be a lot of that. People aren't going to – they've got to – sometimes they have to save their job. Now, I'm certainly not saying that Gus Malzahn feels like his job's in jeopardy, but he's lost 5 in a row and their defense stinks. He's got to do something. Sometimes you just have to shake things up and show that you're serious. Show your team that you're serious. I don't know. I don't know how good a coach Ted Roof is. He's supposedly pretty good coach, but I don't know. Anyway, that's the latest news on firings. There'll be more tomorrow, I'm sure. Monday is the day to keep an eye on it, though. I will tell you that. All right, let's get to number 2 on Hesser and Kipke's 3 things, which is, you know who's getting beaten up by the media now on all these NFL shows? Our man Anthony Richardson, because Anthony, of course, back playing now after missing 2 games with an oblique. I think it was an oblique injury. But in the game yesterday, he had to come out of the game because he was tired. And believe me, these guys are not going to put up with that. I was tired. Look, Anthony just got it out. First of all, you should be in better shape. I know you had an arm injury, right? So you can run all you want. You better come back in good shape. It's a bad look. And look, Anthony Richardson is always going to be that guy. And unless something changes, unless a light bulb goes out, that you are willing to take a chance on and willing to give time to, and you're probably going to be disappointed. Florida was disappointed. So far, I think the Colts are disappointed. Not that he's not a good person. There's just that gene he doesn't quite seem to have, where you have that winning instinct and you go out and you do whatever it takes. Remember the video? It's a famous video. I've seen it a million times, and this was Stafford with Detroit. And I think he dislocated his shoulder, and he went back in for the 2-point play. He wouldn't let him keep him out of the game, and they won the game. I mean, that's the kind of guy you need, not the guy who says, I was too tired. Anyway, I always like Anthony Richardson, but that's weak, man. Weak sauce. All right, let's get to number 3 on Hesser and Kipke's 3 things. I didn't talk about it in segment 1 because it's not that big a deal in my life, but the World Series is coming up. Obviously, there'll be 3 straight games in New York, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll give you the times on that a little bit later on the networks on our Swamp Games of the weekend, but pretty cool that the Dodgers are up 2. Now, look, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I'm paying attention to it on the second TV, but the Dodgers, like I've said, are my 3rd least favorite team, but I've got to root for them because the Yankees are my 1st least favorite team. That's the way I'm calling it. So Ohtani apparently is playing tonight, so he hurt his shoulder, but apparently he's okay. So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about it a little bit more later when we get to our games of the weekend. Okay, our games of the week. Let us move next to our Florida Surf Club Cool Dude of the weekend. We appreciate the Florida Surf Club, and you can go to their site and you can donate to them and help them out. They've got nationals coming up. I know that. Our cool dude of the week is Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed was the Texas A&M quarterback who was unbelievable in that game, second half of that game. Although, as I mentioned earlier, Kirk Herbstreit apparently thought it was the first time he'd ever played. But no, he was good against Florida. And again, this goes back to what we talk about. Here's this Texas A&M team's got 1 loss, right? They just beat LSU. They beat Florida. And when they beat Florida here, we were like, this is the worst loss ever. Everybody's like, fire Napier right now. Fire everybody. Fire the janitor. Maybe that guy people had a hard time getting ready for him, and maybe he's just that good. That's a game and a half of unbelievable play, okay? Maybe he's just that good. Maybe these teams are just that good. That's what you have to take into account at some point. Maybe you have to find a way to beat some of those teams that are really good. You at least got to be competitive with them. But that's not Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed, as I mentioned earlier, 261 yards against Florida earlier in the year. It's not like he came out of nowhere. They knew that what he could do, and they saw what he could do. The problem was I don't think Florida got prepared and didn't adjust to him. And in the case of LSU, there was no second half adjustment. He just kept doing the same. Like he said, as long as I kept running the ball, I was going to keep running. As long as they kept giving me yardage, I was going to keep going. So Marcel Reed is our Florida Surf Club cool dude of the weekend. Let's get to our Ox Strong Moving Company, the Movers. We do this on Mondays and talk to you about the teams that moved the most. Well, obviously, one team that moved a lot is Washington, because now they're 2.5 games ahead of Dallas because they won and Dallas lost. I'm happy about that. Sorry. But in the poll, as far as the poll goes, Notre Dame up 4 spots to number 8. Texas A&M goes all the way up to number 10. They go up 4 spots as well. Biggest drop of the week, teams in the poll, LSU -8. They go down 16 spots. Not a good second half for them. I'm sure they're lamenting that. And then both Illinois and Missouri dropped 4 spots to 24 and 25. Of course, Vanderbilt dropped the most because they dropped completely out of the poll, although technically they're 26. You lose to Texas as what were they, like 20-point underdog, and you lose by 3, you shouldn't drop out of the poll. Personally, I don't think you should. I think you should stay right where you were. First of all, I didn't agree with them getting into the poll for barely beating Ball State. It's like they just noticed that. Anyway, again, if I wish I was still a voter, I could straighten these people out. You know that. All right, that is our Oxstrong movie, The Movers. We do that every Monday. All right, let us get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. Okay, here's what I'm giving you guys. And some of you did pretty good this weekend. So we've got a lot of qualifiers. We're going to give something away probably on I would think our Leonardo's Pizza of Millhopper Quick Pick winner will be pulled on Thursday. I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood to give something away. So let's do that. And we got several qualifiers. We could use some more. So you got a chance. And all you got to do is tell me who wins the game. Now, I can't give you the Wednesday baseball game, right? You don't know if there's a Wednesday game. I can't give you the Monday game because some of you don't listen till Tuesday. If you don't listen you got to give it in by 8:08. Picks got to be in. L.A. at New York, game 4. I don't know where it's going to be 2-0 or 2-1, but it's game 4. Who wins the game? Very simple question. New York, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, New York. You get the pick. All right, let's move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend. And I'm glad I can go back to volleyball because volleyball was struggling, but now they've won. I think they've won three in a row and won this one in 4 sets. They won on Friday, but Kennedy Martin is our Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend. 31 kills in 4 sets is a new record at UF. So, it's a record. I should never say new record. I always was taught, don't say new record. It's the record now, currently. Anyway, it's a record. She set the record for 31 kills in a 4-set match, which is pretty impressive. She's been awesome all year, and maybe they're starting to get it going. So Kennedy Martin is our Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend. Appreciate everything she's doing. Appreciate Mary Wise. Let's go. Let's get it going, guys. By the way, soccer's last match, I think I think I have it down here. I'll get to that. In fact, I'll get to it right now. It's time for our Swamp Games of the week. Sorry. These are the games we will give you to watch if you want to watch them or go to. Swamp Games of the week, and of course we'll be out there I think on Thursday. I think we're going to go out there on Thursday. I haven't 100%ed that with Jeff, but I think we're going to be out there Thursday. So come on out and see us. All right, first of all, games of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know the World Series is going on. LA at New York. 8:08 is the start time for all 3 games, and they're all on Fox. So it's going to be interesting. For some of you, it's going to be huge because some of you are LA fans. Some of you are. My daughter's a Dodger fan, so it'll be big for her. My youngest daughter. My oldest daughter lives in LA, kind of likes the Dodgers, doesn't know that they're winning though. So, which is a whole nother story. All right, so those are the games, and then of course we can't give you the other games because we don't know if they're going to be played. We'll give them to you when we know. Obviously, Thursday's NFL game is Houston at the Jets. What's left of the Jets? What are they, 2-6 now? 5 in a row losses? That Devontae Adams thing really worked out. All right, so that's the game anyway, 8:15 on Prime. Volleyball is at Arkansas Wednesday at 8 on the SEC network. So if you want to watch Florida, go to Arkansas and play that match at 8. That'll be interesting on the SEC network. They're playing better now. Wednesday, I mentioned soccer is on against Tennessee. That is on. It's the last match of the year, regular season match of the year. It's on SEC Plus. If you get SEC Plus, or I guess ESPN Plus, you can get it. At 7 o'clock. That's the last soccer match of the year. And then football, I didn't even list them for you. College football, there are 6 games, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. None of them really float my boat, but they're on. And they're good to have in the background. And if one game could go to overtime, that's worth watching. That's about all I can say. It's all the same usual suspects. Jacksonville State's in one. Somebody Eastern, somebody Western. They're all those teams are playing, okay? But anyway, you got plenty to watch this week at the Swamp. And if you want to come over there and see us Thursday, we'll be happy to see you. And don't forget, you also have a lot of games this weekend. We'll get to those on Thursday's show. Next up, we need to get to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. And I thought this was very appropriate for the Sponge of the Week. You know who it is? J.J. Redick. You know why it's J.J. Redick? J.J. Redick, who when he got the job of the Lakers head coach, I thought was ridiculous. But he is into it. And one of a former player out there, Baron Davis, who played at UCLA too, spotted him in a car wash. It wasn't Gallows, I don't think, though, but it was in L.A. But at a car wash, studying film of the next opponent. That is a sponge of the week right there. He is sponging it all up. And guess what? The Lakers are undefeated. Now, not a Lakers fan, but I still think it's pretty admirable. But that's something J.J. Redick can always say, that at one point in his life, he was able to be the Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. It's a big deal. We'll give you a certificate if you want one. We'll mail it to you, JJ. All right, let's get to our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment. The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today. Okay, this was definitely a mayhem moment. Squirrel on the field, and then guess what? He falls down because the coaches must have said, go down. We got to stop the clock. We can't let them keep going. So he went down. And then the guy's pointing to where the like the squirrel's going to look up and go, oh, this way? Is that good? You want me to go this way? I'm sorry. But that is classic right there. That could only happen at Ole Miss. You got to say that. So that is definitely our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment. Hey, if you can't have a laugh, what's the point? All right, we saved this for last, but it's certainly not the least important. In fact, it may be the most important. This is, as we're getting closer to the playoffs, this is our Steve and Christine Wendig, the 12. We do this every Monday to give you the 12 teams that we think are going to be in the playoffs if it ended right now. These are the 12 teams we would put in. And, of course, Christine and Steve Wendig are brought to you by Boss Art Realties. They do a great job, and we appreciate them presenting the 12. Number 1, I'm going to go with Oregon. Now, look, I wanted to get Oregon out of there, but no, they're they got the big wins, and that win Saturday was – it's pretty impressive. Maybe they figured some things out, and they're pretty good. Number 2, Miami. Yeah, I believe in Miami more than a lot of people do. I don't like it, but I believe in them. Number 3, Georgia, and number 4, BYU. Of course, you got to get the Pac-12 winner in there. I think Pac-12. I think BYU's got a really good team. I don't know how much noise they can make in the playoff, but if they get that bye, it certainly will help them. Number 5, Penn State, team I am rooting against. You know why. Clemson at 6, at 7 Ohio State, at 8 Texas, at 9 Tennessee, and at 10 A&M. So I've got 3 straight SEC teams in there: Texas, Tennessee, and A&M. What do I not have in there? Alabama. Right now, I wouldn't have Alabama in there. Now Alabama's going to they don't get the Saban bump anymore. I don't think. I don't know. I don't whether they're going to get it or not. I got Indiana at number 11. Indiana be in. Now Indiana schedule is going to get a little bit tougher coming up. We'll see how they do, but they're undefeated. And that win with their backup quarterback, and they blew out another team, they're really good. And then 12, I got Boise State, because somebody from the group of 5, the best, highest-ranked team, I think they'll end up being the highest ranked team. We'll see how it goes. So, yeah, no Alabama in our Steve and Christine Wending, the 12. For now, you never know. I mean, that win was impressive. I did, but you got to leave somebody out. It's what I talked about last week. No matter how many times you do this, no matter how many 12 teams you come, somebody's getting left out and somebody's going to be mad. You thought all the madness was gone? Nah, we're still going to get angry. All right, did I cover everything? We have so many great, wonderful, lovely sponsors that we care about so much. I just want to make sure I got everything in. I think I did. I'm looking at it all. I mean, I need to highlight, the yellow highlight for everything. But I think that's it. All right, that's going to do it for another show. We appreciate all of our great sponsors, all of our great listeners and viewers. You guys are the best, man. You've made this a great show, and we've had a great time. And, of course, Zach, who does a great job of putting it all together and making me look as good as possible, which is not very good. Until next time, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.